It is finished. This is the profound last statement that was uttered by Jesus on the cross that's recorded in John 19:30. How do we understand what this means? I used to think I knew what it meant. I was taught in Bible class and seminary that this statement means that Jesus completed atonement on the sacrifice for sins on the cross. All I had to do to confirm that is Google, "It is finished." I got the same answer. For instance, so in his last words, Jesus was communicating the work that he came for was accomplished. The task of earning the salvation of the world was completed in his work on the cross. No more adjustments or additions were necessary. Salvation was completed. Another quote said, "It is finished," indicates Christ had finished the redemptive work he set out to do since the first prophecy in Genesis 3, and likely much before then. Because sin had entered the world, a cup of wrath existed. Either man or God had to drink it. That's what "it is finished" means in the tradition that I had been taught. However, my understanding of this important saying got challenged and changed by encountering scholarship. And my current understanding not only fits the context of John better, it also adds something profound to the impact of this saying. It all changed in 2011. Dr. David Moffat published Atonement and the Logic of Resurrection in the Epistle to the Hebrews. David was arguing that the importance of Jesus' ascension has to be an important presupposition for the book of Hebrews, because many scholars have said that Jesus' resurrection and ascension were downplayed in Hebrews. The reason that it is vital is because Hebrews states that Jesus completed the atonement after his resurrection and ascension. And that's in Hebrews 1:3 and 9:11 through 28. Hebrews 9:11 starts with, "But Christ has appeared as the high priest of the good things that have happened. He passed through the greater and more perfect meeting tent, which isn't made by human hands. That is, it's not a part of this world. He entered the Holy of Holies once for all by his own blood." And Hebrews 1:3 says, "After he carried out the cleansing of people from their sins, he sat down at the right side of the highest majesty." Well, a lot of people were very upset that Moffat was arguing that Jesus did not complete the atonement on the cross. But not me, because I knew Hebrews, and this faithfully represents the full teaching of Scripture. There's no way that "it is finished" makes a clearer statement than 5 chapters of Hebrews. But that left me with the question, what exactly was finished? When I looked again at the passage in the Bible in which "it is finished" occurs, I could see that it really does look like Jesus was talking about another thing that was also very important. So let's look at the passage. After this, knowing that everything was already completed, in order to fulfill the scripture, Jesus said, "I am thirsty." A jar full of sour wine was nearby, so the soldiers soaked a sponge in it, placed it on a hyssop branch, and held it to his lips. When he had received the sour wine, Jesus said, "It is finished." Bowing his head, he gave up his life. At this dramatic point on the cross, John specifically talks about Jesus' final fulfillment, and he's focusing on his humanity. Jesus is undergoing human experience and suffering, thirst and abuse, and then he dies. Because he's human, it's appointed for him to die. So Jesus' humanity was completed on the cross in John, and the gospel starts with the exciting statement that the Word became flesh and lived among us. That's a reference to Jesus' incarnation. In a lot of cases, when we talk about God's incarnation in John, that is Jesus' incarnation in John, the focus is on Jesus' divinity. Definitely, Jesus' divinity is vital. And we also focus on his redemptive death. However, Jesus not only came to die, he came to do the work that God his Father told him to do. John indicates that Jesus' full experience of humanity was a really important part of the work that God had given him. We see in the Gospels that he shared fully in our human experience. He was born, he grew, he learned obedience, he got hungry, he became physically weak, he became troubled, he cried out, and he cried tears. And here in this passage, he was thirsty. Why is Jesus' humanity, with all of its difficulties, important? The book of Hebrews tells us that he had to be made like his brothers and sisters in every way. This was so that he could become a merciful and faithful high priest in things relating to God, in order to wipe away the sins of the people. He's able to help those who are being tempted, since he himself experienced suffering when he was tempted. Jesus' full spectrum of experience as a human was definitely essential, so that he could make full redemption in the heavenly tabernacle as our great high priest. But it was also important that he could help us as we experience the serious challenges of life. He can sympathize with us in our weaknesses, so that this is truly the basis of our personal relationship with Jesus Christ. My whole life as a Christian, I was told that we were supposed to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And this is what being a Christian really meant. But it strikes me that a lot of people are not pursuing a personal relationship with Christ. I think a lot of times they think of Jesus as being somewhere in the abstract, up in heaven. And so they're not really relating to him directly. And so there's a question, how do we have a personal relationship with Christ? How do we develop a personal relationship with him? And so first of all, you've got to meet Jesus as a real person. And the way you encounter Jesus as a person is in the Gospels. I want to invite you to meet Jesus as a real person in the Gospels. Most of you have probably read the Gospels. I want you to pick up the Gospels and read them again, and read them with new eyes, that here is the place that you are encountering Jesus. Here is the place that you are getting to know him. You're getting to understand how to hear his voice. You're understanding how he speaks. You're understanding how he interacts with people. You are learning how to encounter Jesus in your reading. You're not reading for information now, you're reading to know Jesus. And in doing this, you are intentionally developing a personal relationship with him. And so this is no longer an abstract where a personal relationship are things about him, but it's actually an experience in which you deliberately encounter him. And what's going to come out of this? We are promised that we can access the help that we need in our times of crisis and trial. Jesus has already gone through this whole spectrum of human experience, and he had a set agenda to the point where when he was on the cross, he was able to say, "It's finished. I've run this race." And at the end of it, he had developed all of this understanding about what we go through. So in a nutshell, when Jesus said, "It is finished," we can say it was in the context that he said that he saw that everything had been accomplished at that point. And then one last thing, it's thirsty, and he was given some vinegar. What this is language of fulfillment, is that he was fulfilling the job that he had to do. And the job that he had to do was to become a human in every way. So "it is finished" means that Jesus had completed the whole process of his incarnation, and that was the close on the cross at that point. And then he gave up his life.